愛の無知。
それはサボりたいだけでは。
みんな優秀だよ。特に3年Hakari、2年乙骨。彼らは僕に並ぶ術師になる。
Rules were meant to be broken, a philosophy that has survived throughout the ages, and one that this character lives and breathes by. This is none other than Kinji Hakari. Holding an immense presence even before his debut, he did not disappoint as his delinquent nature and strong attitude towards the system defined him. But Hakari is an odd character, especially if we take a look at his techniques and abilities. But how does Hakari work in the world of JJK? Before we understand the intricacies of Hakari's character, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit that notification bell to stay updated on latest uploads. This video will contain spoilers from the manga. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. With their help, I was able to make this video you guys are watching now. But as for Raid Shadow Legends, it has completely taken over, especially with the insane console level graphics that it has. They have set the bar really high and there's no going back. As for what to expect from Raid Shadow Legends, is that you get to explore millions of champion combinations and master countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign battles, as well as PvP arena matches. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 600 champions, blessed with unique skills, you can build your team, develop your champions, and raid your way. There are various champions that you can attain when playing Raid Shadow Legends. Since I've been playing Raid for quite a while now, my personal favourite champions would have to be Royal God, who is known for only one thing, and that is wrecking bosses. He has an extremely powerful ability that scales damage based on enemy max HP, in addition to all the other damage it deals. He can also both paralyze a boss and deal incredible damage all in one package. Royal God is legendary. My other favourite champion would have to be Kyoku. She's one of the best team defenders in Raid with a single incredible skill. She can place 50% ally protection on her allies for 2 turns and place block damage on herself for 3 turns, then give herself an extra turn with a 4-turn cooldown. She seriously is an incredible defensive champion. Well, for the month of October, Raid's just released a giant new feature, Awakening, and a brutal new dungeon, the Iron Twins Fortress. If you're good enough to take down the Iron Twins, you'll see a huge payoff, being able to awaken your champions. Awakening your champions lets you choose a powerful blessing that can transform how they perform in battle. I absolutely love how awesome some of these blessings look, and there's so much variety. This whole feature has added an entirely new level of depth and strategy, and I've been having a ton of fun playing around and testing things out. But there's more. Raid has just released a super powered legendary version of everybody's favorite champion, Death Knight. The whole Raid community has been waiting for this for a long time, and Ultimate Death Knight is everything we hope for. He's poised, he's powerful, he's perfect, and the best part is, everyone can get him for free just by logging in. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th, and you'll add Ultimate Death Knight to your collection. It's as easy as that. There's seriously never been a better time to get started, but obviously there's more. You can also use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your new strongest champion all the way to level 50 5-star Ascension. Promo code is available for both new and existing players, and if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen. You'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Vergis, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and even 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, and it's as easy as that. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you guys in the game. But with that said, let's get back into the video. The genius of Hakari is that he is merely reflecting the ideas that Satoru Gojo holds so dearly, and while the politics of his actions keep him in check, one unbound by the system, which he has lived outside for the most of his life, where the rules are broken is the domain he resides. Taking action, Kinji Hakari is more than a character, he is the future of Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole. With that said, why don't we dive into the complex character which is Kinji Hakari. So without further ado, let's get straight in. Starting off his debut with a rough impact, Kinji Hakari is no stranger to confrontation and letting his fists do the talking. However, don't let his delinquent aesthetic fool you. He is very well deserving of his praise and power, holding a regard for being good for nothing. Only those of the highest echelon notice his great potential, being one of the few Satoru Gojo stated will redefine the hierarchy of the world. He, much like the others, break free of the confines those that are afraid of power try to place on him. Due to such reasons, he has been suspended presumably a numerous amount of of times, causing him to create his own system where curses and curse users can fight to create their own ambitions. An almost selfless disposition at face value. His cunning and charismatic nature have propelled him to his own status. Although a latecomer to join the squad in their ambition to overthrow the Culling Games, Hakari has certainly made himself memorable for two reasons. This would be his power and his attitude, acting as someone who can only be compared to as Gojo. Instead of using his great potential for some grand ambition, Hakari opted to start a fight club, which explains his look inspired by that of Tyler Durden. Being so carefree, it seems to be that a resounding theme for those at the top is a singular feeling of boredom. Living outside of the predetermined status quo, his attitude is only maintained by the power that he has. But that is not where Hakari's nature ends, although for the most part he drowns in his own pleasures. Absorbed by the work he chooses to do that is by his own word, what lies beneath is a hidden admiration for those who hold a burning passion for something he calls a fever. And this fever is truly what he has his eyes set on. I think what Hakari loves is the feeling of freedom. He doesn't seek domination, he just wants to spread an idea of passion in others. But to do this, Hakari requires a network to propagate this idea to greater levels. And due to being a student, his name only carries so much weight in itself. That's why when situations that favour him come to hand, he uses them to his advantage in any way possible. This is seen when he quickly changes his attitude towards joining the team after realizing Megami was to become the next head of the Zenin clan. After all, I think Hakari is a perfect example of what was stated as the goal of all powerful men, to garner more power, but what is a designated trait singular to only him is that it is not necessarily a selfish desire that solely motivates him. In a sense, he seems to be a polar opposite of what curses represent in the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, but his spread is similar in the same aspect. Instead of fears, he gathers passion and desire to a much greater extent. And in pursuing this, I believe Hakari is unintentionally creating himself to be one of the most important figures that will play a pivotal role in the future of the world. And this is emphasized by the fact that Kirara stated that his fever was always at its highest when he was helping out students. But amongst this passion, he himself also holds something in high regard, and that is gambling, which is the basis of his curse technique. Now what I know you've all been waiting for, and that is his curse technique and domain expansion. To put it simply, his power can only be described with one word: insane. The power it holds, the way it works, just everything about it is bizarre, and it is exactly what a story like Jujutsu Kaisen needs. Now if I'm being honest with you, Hakari's abilities confuse the hell out of me. But to do you all a favour, I have analysed every nook and cranny of his ability in order to best explain it to you, so you don't have to go crazy like I did. Starting off simply, let's talk about his cursed energy. When fighting against Yuji, who he himself is an incredibly strong individual, managing to survive constant onslaughts, there is a unique feeling to Hakari's cursed energy, which no matter the output, has a prominent sharp feeling, which is why his cursed energy is noted as being rough, or as Yuji described it, being slugged with a baseball bat with razors, and later described by the aspiring manga author Charles Bernard like a coarse fly, something fitting of his rough nature. Hakari is as brutal as his cursed energy, but not inhumane. Now for his first cursed technique, an innate technique that allows him to manipulate probability to further boost himself and his luck. This is called Private Pure Love Train, taking on the form of a shoujo story or a romance story. The reach action is directly tied to the star level, which consolidates its hype or base of luck. For the first star, which results in a boost that is not super hype, this one is called Transportation IC Card Reach. The second level, which is 2 stars, is called Commuter's Seat Scramble Reach. Following from that, Enduring a Full Bladder on the Express Train Reach. And lastly is Precious Last Friday Train Reach, which is a full 3 stars. Now essentially, when getting better hype, it works in his favour for his domain expansion to reach a jackpot. A probability that is typically 1 out of 239 is boosted up to roughly a 75% chance. Now for his domain expansion Restless Gambler, due to his sure hit effect, Restless Gambler unloads the rules and way it works into the minds of enemies caught by it within the area of effect, working together with Pure Love Train, which is his curse technique. The environment of it as such changes due to the event that occurs while in progress. However, it is all dependent on the probability and gambling factors, so using a fictitious character known as Yuki from the shoujo theme, the chances of jackpot depend on the actions this character ends up taking. However, the broken part of this domain expansion lies in its ability to reset constantly to suit Hakari's presence. But during the reset of these events, Hakari is vulnerable to attacks, so against sorcerers of immense technique and strategic prowess, he would find himself at a disadvantaged position. And although Hakari states himself that you need skill to capitalize on your luck, re-rolling until you hit a jackpot is the essence of a true gambler, and in fact requires no luck at all, only money. But in this instance, the payment would only be cursed energy. However, because of the insanity that is his jackpot, this is more than worth the cost. When landing on his jackpot, Hakari is granted unlimited cursed energy for a total of 4 minutes and 11 seconds, and during this time, he is practically immortal, being able to regenerate decapitated limbs, and while not ever learning reverse curse technique, due to the sheer outstanding volume present within his body is able to instinctively perform reverse curse techniques in order to prevent any more severe damage, and because of his instinctual nature, and not being a learnt ability of his, Hakari is able to mitigate the effects of poison simply by existing. Now this isn't the only thing that makes Hakari so dangerous as a fighter. Due to having an exorbitant amount of cursed energy, he is able to perform his domain expansion as many times as needed until he is able to acquire another jackpot. And of course, that is not the extent of his technique's abilities either. When acquiring a jackpot, the likelihood of getting another one is increased by 20%. This factored in with pseudo spins, which essentially acts like an additional bonus or chance to hit the jackpot again, which again, as we know, jackpots are infinite cursed energy. Now with that confusing mess out of the way, we see that gambling really is the life of Hakari, and a gambler's greatest asset is their luck, which Hakari seems to be in plentiful hands of. On top of this, Hakari has magnificent intuition, which helps him in understanding various characters and enemies. Now that I've explained his curse technique to the best of my ability, I can only describe Hakari in a few ways, but the one word that stands out to me the most is that he is ridiculous. From his curse technique to his dazzling hairstyle, his choice of lifestyle by creating a fight club, everything about him is as unique as can be, and despite not holding any similarities to those in his position before, Hakari elevates the story of Jujutsu Kaisen because he is such a perfect character for it, standing as one of the only few characters to have killed a singular person whatsoever. Despite his brutish nature and abilities, Hakari is a seam that weaves together the good and the bads of the worlds, being picky when it comes to what he dedicates his efforts to. No action that he takes has been executed without a measure of precaution or consideration to the results. After all, a gambler in their element is always thinking ahead, managing to subdue perhaps even the bloodthirstiest contestant in the culling games. Hakari is able to casually stroll off mortal wounds and intense battles like it's nothing, because to him and all his wisdom, the perception of the world he creates is nothing more than a game. Easily going through devastating news, he seems to always be looking for the next grand move to take, and while reckless and hot-headed, Hakari seems to conceptualize a world that inverses a lot of ideas of villainy and the higher-ups of Jujutsu High, and that is what will make him a prominent figure, because above all else he is a natural born leader, and one that will manage to make a difference. Now if I'm being completely honest, Hakari is a character I had to grow to enjoy, although I enjoyed racking my brain over the utter madness that followed the introduction of his domain expansion amongst the community. It wasn't until recently that I analysed him and came to fall in love with what he represents. I know there were theories on whether or not he was going to die to Kashimo, but as of right now I truly do believe Hakari is one that will become a figurehead in the world. So how do you all feel about Hakari? Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one.